I'm good, because I'll probably spend like 15 minutes trying to flow.
You good?
So, yeah, let's go.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what his problem with me was. Like, I tried to be cool. Like, I acted as if I was also athletic and outgoing. But that day during band, I realized he had marked me as different. Daniel's gay. Simple sentence, but at a school where crossing my legs is proof that I'm not a real man, or explaining that there's actually not anything wrong with being gay and makes me one of them, those 3 words have quite the ramifications. This hateful conception of what it means to be masculine is only one of the many structures of oppression that ultimately hurt debaters. Everywhere in the debate space, marginalized groups are being put down and harassed by their judges and peers to debate systematically in order to suppression in favor of imaginary impacts. Thus, the role of the ballot is to vote for the debater's best liberation strategy for the oppressed learning survival strategies is key 513. Debate reflects the racism and inequality of society. Topics are highly technical needs of the elite national circuit training system that from cynical technocrats will tolerate injustice as part of a game where real consequences are always debatable around the crossing. Participants are pushing the possibility of addressing racism and structural inequality. Making a training ground for blacks against survivors and the oppressive structure of male identity is harmful to all involved. Non-gender conforming folks are race, queer folks labeled as deviant, and women are seen as inferior and weak. It also functions as a fatal parasite, slowly eating away at the minute in which it takes root. Sanchez. 14. Sexism is detrimental to society as a cultural and systematic structure. Modern culture causes emotional repression. Men are discouraged from showing weaknesses. Causes men to suppress fear, being perceived as weak, and keep men from asking for help. For repression is now cause heart disease, hypertension, and back pain. Chronic depression of anger is associated with cancer, asthma, alteration, insomnia, damage to relationships. When men grow up in sexist environments, the way they perceive women can be harmful. You can also name friendships when men are not encouraged to talk about feelings they are unable to forge emotional bonds. Thus, I affirm the public right to know through male intimacy is a method of embracing honesty and vulnerability, creating healthier identities of masculinity. While different groups have had different experiences of masculinity, intimacy is a key step to affordance is needed for the development of different identities of masculinity. The one sees not a new definition of masculinity, but an implosion of societal conception of masculinity in favor of authentic relations with others. Bernard 16. At what point did adolescence we cease to be intimate? We seek of male intimacy, connotations of eroticism are clear, but it's a fallacy. Thus, our own level of development is dissonance. We confine intimacy. We crave both hypermasculinity, shun intimacy with the men we are closest to. Male intimacy requires us to be honest and vulnerable. We are removed from infant and expected and mature love is transferred to brotherhood. I've yearned for the lack of warmth, physical distance with male friends because my father is his father, son, a total least chieftain with his many children, his hairs on his head. Affection is far from near the youngest and a family with a mother is in the only way present. There was colonialism which strips African men of their ability to accept masculinity in a fluid form. Western patriarchy feels little for the cultural nuances. Masculinity offers hypermasculinity replaces with brotherhood and Judaism. What is to say for his heteronormative relationships when the ones closest to us are not trusted with our most vulnerable women? We need to push our own masculinity. We man who come to space that flourish and blossom. I am my own man whose masculinity cannot be dictated or navigated by those who don't live my experience. My masculinity will continue to be untamed until it allows me to indulge its capabilities, and intimacy with male friends is one step in the right direction. And hypermasculinity spills into colonialism and capitalism, justifying the atrocities of the colonial era, and including just reduction that stigmatized marginalized groups. Rejection of hypermasculinity includes rejection of its innate violence. Gita and Air 13 bracketed for ableist language. A gender mode of economic development which from Western liberal masculinist capitalism, as hypermasculinity lies at the core of post-colonial IR, justify aggression, competition, power, and production as masculine, while denigrating kindness as feminine. British role in India valors hypermasculinity because it rationalized colonialism while perverting local elites. Hypermasculinity induced sexism, racism, false cultural homogeneity. Hypermasculine competitions and colonialism may change, but its script of power relations remains the same. Hypermasculine capitalism reconstructs subject spaces and activities into agents of valors to masculinize competitiveness. It has the hyperfeminist tendency to local women, peasant support, agrarian production. It recasts economic development into a retrieval of national manhood due to domination by previous colonizers. For former colonizers, hypermasculine capitalism hoists rhetoric to cover chauvinism. Hypermasculine capitalism demands demonstrations of national reform for manhood for fear of hyperfemininity. And the one he sees an act of interior intersubjectivity, rejecting the notion that whiteness can define and render the ethnic racial subject intelligible, creates spaces of incoherence to whiteness, which can form new concepts of the subject. Viego 07. We adopt interior intersubjectivity practices to seek understandings that ethnic racialized subjects might adopt to be marked that might interrupt the movement between ethnic racialized resemblance and intelligibility. The late Lacanian ethical imperatives are still ruining knowledge regarding what it means to be an ethnic racialized subject in contemporary U.S. culture. This and be the hope of precipitating new forms of ethnic racialized subjectivity set up with the refusal of what we are currently made to be. We should bring new forms of subjectivity through the refusal of this individuality which has been imposed upon us under view. Our role is valid, outweighs topicality and theory. What do we redefine what it means to engage in the debate in the first place. It means responding to the act as a necessary power question. Debating theory also means theory is terminally non-unique. These oppressive unfairness happens all the time. Debating interact fairness is irrelevant. Two topicalities in a form of argumentation premise healthy concept that we should limit our conversations to what is deemed accepted by a body of scholarship, largely exclusive and privileged. The thesis of the app is that we should not be limiting our conversations and instead look for more liberatory scholarship. It means it's a question of sequencing and the app that way. 3. Debate is currently focused on a form of false objectivity. The only ethical solution is to create space focused on finding solutions to oppression. Smith 13. An activity I think of as home place discourages black students from participating in the institution, locks minority participants out of the ranks. Racism and debate is constituted by singular persons, kind of ways to win by rushing to acceptance and distance conversation from material reality, building constructive strategies to acknowledge reality, the present and find strategies for dealing with the issues. Debate is a learning environment with liberatory potential, continuing to parade LD under the guise of neutrality will reproduce the problem. We cannot retreat. For the 1AC will be met with arguments about proper definitions and policy-making education. Honesty, go to PF. Polyvocalism is the only framing that actually applies to our lives and creates empathetic action. Co and Naomi. 15. Education is becoming this mixed education, anti-fascist, over-represents certain ways of being based on normative claims. Debate allows for more opportunities. Debating promotes empathy, not defined by bias terms. It's too simple to believe in a monovocal system. We should unwork this conception of better. There is no value to debate. A skill set not bracketed by being affirming of the world. 3 days where participants create real experiences to speak to their individuals about what restricts their worlds. If rules of debate do not allow for that, we advocate breaking those rules. And the affirmative gets cross applications and topicality in theory. One that just disincentivizes theory because you can't prove the entirety of the after the random show. It means you have to think about it for a minute before you put together your doctrine. It creates an artificial distinction between both appeal and normative standards. It's just a question of what the most relevant under those standards. And theory means 6 minutes of the 1AC and encourages you to ignore the substance of the app. This is the way you can engage and make good responses to the app. Cut the 4th one. Evaluations are conceptually different from prescriptions since they don't prescribe action. Robinson. Many instances are not prescriptive, but express valuations. Everything ought not to be happy. It's not a command to act. Evaluation is distinct from prescription, where even where there is possible act, the ought may be more ideal than prediction. Wherever ought is followed by not doing infinitive, it is like the ideal. Ought to be usually belongs to a sentence which represents an ideal, not a command. So I didn't read the 4th reason I get cross-ups, and I didn't read anything after the Robinson card.
Okay, so 4 was just Robinson. That's it.
Like the 4th reason that I get cross-ups, I did not read. But then I did read the Robinson evidence, yeah.
Cool. Good for cross-ups. What is intimacy?
Intimacy, as contextualized by Bernard, is the concept of being vulnerable, open, and honest with those who you can be.
What does honesty look like?
I mean, honesty not in the sense of like, is that true or false, but in the sense of being like open and authentic about yourself to others.
Okay, what does it mean to be open and authentic about yourself?
To be open about I'll split it up. To be open about yourself means not to like try to contain who you are, again, around those who you may, and to be authentic is to like embrace yourself as you believe and interpret yourself to be.
Okay, let's talk about your role of the ballot.
Sure.
What does it mean to redefine debate?
You mean this was in the underview?
Yeah.
So it just means that like we make a claim about what debate should look like in the first place. So theory operates under some conception. Like even when people read other role of the ballots, like a policy-making role of the ballot or like truth testing, theory still operates typically under those conceptions, whereas we have a totally new form of what this
why
is.
didn't you read a topical app?
I think I am topical.
In what sense?
Like I said, I affirm the resolution through male intimacy. It's a method of the resolution.
Okay, how is it a method of the right to know?
Right. So the argument is that we should value the right to know because we should value authenticity and also to be clear.
How do you value the right to know above the right to privacy of candidates for public office?
Through the affirmative method of male intimacy.
Okay, how does the affirmative method value knowing over privacy?
Because it says that openness and authenticity are good things for people to embrace.
How does the affirmative relate to candidates?
Like we just say that it's a good thing, period. So then it affirms for candidates.
Oh, so it's just like a good thing for you?
That's not what I said. We say that male intimacy is a good thing, and thus candidates should.
What does male intimacy look like?
That was the original question you asked. What intimacy is?
Yeah, not like what does it look like? What is an example of it?
Sure. So like when I'm honest with my friends about like my emotions and how I feel on a given day, that's like an example. Excuse me. That's an example.
Okay, wait. Is T something that is psychologically violent under the model of the AF?
I wouldn't say that. I don't think that specific claim is made. There are reasons as to why topicality is not like a good form of debate.
Okay, why do you get cross-apps to topicality in theory? If we win an argument as to why your app is unfair or we can't engage, why should you be able to
Sure,
cross
so
like that?
to me this is just like a basic question of testing. So the fact that the app doesn't defend what you wanted it to doesn't mean that you're not smart enough, Tage, to make responses to it. So like if I had read a Juarez app with like some framework you had literally never seen before, like Lackflower or something, you probably...
Okay, that's fine. What is masculinity? Or how do we know what is masculine?
Well, the claim of the 1AC is that we shouldn't have strict definitions of what is masculine, except to say that hypermasculinity is a false interpretation of masculinity.
Okay, why can't you just win and like win against T next in the app?
Sorry?
Like for one, like you say moves the app, why can't you just win T next in the app?
If you read T, it comes at a higher layer, so I have to get through T first. It's a nib.
Oh, so T does come to a higher layer.
No, it, like under your interpretation of, like, if T comes before the app, that makes it a nib, so I would have to get through T and then the app. Like we say that's a bad thing, it moves the app.
Alright, it's 2 in case.
Am I correct with my prediction? Absolutely.
So 2 off.
You won't be predicting stuff on case though. Yeah, it's sent.
Okay, 1 sec.
Can you like pay me for this prediction? Where are you starting on case?
Cohen, Yemi, and Smith.
Okay.
Then your cross apps, then the after proper.
You're going to repeat that in about 20 seconds once I open up the doc and make it the right size for my Mac screen.
Okay.
1 second.
I'll surprise myself. Alright, what was the order again?
2, then the Smith Niemi stuff. The app gets cross apps. So
So yeah, the under basically at the bottom of it, yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, pretty much the under top down. Then the top of the app.
Cool, alright.
Predicting stuff on case too.
Everybody good?
1 second. Actually, yeah. Buzzer was on. I am ready.
Okay. Interpretation by Whitman for defend the job, have their actions right to those values of the okay, public office they don't result in proposed to be not rose for 64 determination of resolution by trade self and right to know is a law investor words the laws make records are available to the public and right is legal definition textual resolution grammatic contract OED illegal and time to do something have a right to do something and ought to indicate the state of affairs all these natural ability to bring the very case oh not being should have the obligatory state of affairs but she's not being really ought to do leads after on specify this can be run doing actions to responsibility that the state of affairs achieve standards 1 point is a ground they get to make the copy extra factors and your argumentation on ground is consistent single methods are dodge all the hand grenades out of racing the margin there. It's time to defend uncontested state of racing about a true super caseless. Our consensus unpredictable being representation. Don't judge by their model. Weak one is limits their model. Has no resolution around great possibility for literally anything number 1. He's not dipping the top of someone to specialize 1 year. The library 4 year giving a huge advantage over someone who's switching resource focus every 2 months money. Next every possible offer X small schools have disparate impacts on under research minority debaters. Counter debations are arbitrary unpredictable. Don't solve the word negative preparation. There's no grounding in the resolution. C point is causality debating the resolution force the different event causing effect relationship that state doing the results and why not talk for fairness. Establish on parameter. I think X is good for me to art negate. D point is vote negative preserve fairness state. Skew the game necessary which are necessary contradicts made about the often possible to debate this influence or subjectivity fairness is the only impact you can evaluate. They can't get offense, we can exclude the only persuasion that our methodology is better. Every debate requires a winner and loser. Voting negative doesn't reject them for debate just as make a better argument next time. And talk over the absolute defendant policy about sexual harassment. Allows you to address the issues of masculinity. Evaluate T version of questions sufficiency because enough they don't need the exact one to introduce when a college classification. Our interpretation is the floor not using you don't access T back claims you can take your firm as well it concludes in order desirability resolution shows your offense fairness because debating the need to value educational schools and making some competing to reasonability makes the question ready on to judgment bench also helps to interpretation just like your relative 2-step interpretation drop the debater because that's central model with 3 minutes of speech on winning arguments you can't respond to what's you need to refer to because nor be as equal to appreciate win for being so well necessity yourself to do points for either reading non-topical for obviously the front line TC board force which you're ranking up creating optimization to our check showing if I do substantive education go back to assumption of resolving theory you don't go with the case 8.5 you preclude substantive engagement 1 is you obviously when the case means you can't cross the case and answer other between textual in the first 2 point T is a procedural question all the claims 1 is subject not theoretical they can't with those debate preclude substance there are no speech time to be able to about including your sex stuff. The idea that hacking the resolution based on capitalist chapter is while capitalism as a narrative exchange so as disrupting logical social system cannot solve boring analysis structures necessary blooder. Attempting constitution comes to identity sexual market contradiction patterns of the social systems destructive life and as how conscious consumption not being extended to all in their struggles societies while often maintaining social requires every increasing social inequality degradation resource within enemies. Discourse of radical dreams become evident. Discourse stimulate the validity of social ideal modern society reconciles tension by stimulation by forming the possibility of alternative cope with the fundamental problem discourse of radical change right and reaffirm exchange of authenticity and the after rejection of specific details political engagement not radical continues the prevailing mode of leftist cynicism eviscerates our ability to construct alternatives to political domination. Bergam 15 the reason the left are rendered politically input to be and not these spreaders of our demonstrating Michelle spectacles instead of understandable people who read destructively to cynicism like false consciousness and search for higher consciousness subjects of paradoxically defend the very sufficient being used the dismissive reaction readers recurs in passive tendency the left renders so passively restricting themselves that we know what's really going on cynical to believe a stronger authentic radicalism makes sense of opposite position for research of authenticity points for narcissistic identification of their aversion to being successful defining yourselves morally correct righteous victims for radical losers for this radical alternative immediately without caution for doing change what after the authentic struggle doing the indefinite and capitalism causes war violence act environment to destruct extinction Robinson 18 the various requires a revolution capitalist system is being equal to human conduct is altering narratives and that friends extinction capitalism impulse to human unifying nature inequality is unpressing Trump quotation muslim manipulation of fear and insecurity among down remote social antagonism being able to escape communities drone war for nuclear weapons satellites for stop war and civil reaching limits have expansion that are no longer facing integrating the alternative is the middle class order to renew socialist movement for extending concrete demands and practice control transforming society vision necessary to proclaim movements on strongest political formations towards and so far 17 the possibility for term bodies series away reforms that we can complement against working people, democratic values must be seen prior healthcare, nationalization, industry, socialism should be at the forefront of rights, cannot be the best advocates of socialism, have to offer analysis of systemic groups and offer reforms change the way the workers, central agents are taking community characters, ignoring racial justice just for working black and brown and younger fighting means not fighting on these issues and combat the dominant ideology with direction, freedom, and universal rights that continue building in working class socialism, as usual, will continue being strongly Trump, developing driving the place of racial danger and sexual emancipation mark, the card of emancipation case. Let's put on the underview, starting on the first one. You say redefine what it means to engage in this space. Obviously, you haven't done anything. You read this out before last year. Nothing has happened. Also, most people continue to think the same way. Nothing believes this round debate has no impact on survey chippies off their second argument. Howdy is not premised on a limitation conversations. It doesn't reject arguments. It says you should have a better methodology next time you submit evidence. One point, arguments productive begs the question. There are going with your interpretation that a good argument also to raise must disclose and if to prevent debaters from jumping hoops. So you create one-side discussions. How silencing my voice in the right takes that the highest one spends your your discussions productive with theory. Denies third by becoming the theories category by the current understanding nuance and incredibly important complex issue. Most problems are black and white. Black and white could have complex certain uncertain interactions. They're coming yummy evidence. One point is only you can use other forms of language. You just shouldn't have part of that. You can use these things for reading case and take the question of that. See, you can turn to manage to good to make non-social laws. Got better method to use better critical base first. I love better precision now. And their case cards are off their first argument. No, obviously the theory is a good thing. Check my things like fairness. We don't define all forms of fairness, but rather fairness in a certain instance that there's affirmed, even if it's not always fair. They say create artificial distinction, but no, we don't hold both good and normative standards. T is a procedural question that was on the show. Our property statement 6 with the 1 AC. All you have to do is answer T, and when you're referring to the app is actually fair, which you probably should be able to your Robinson evidence. No, this doesn't apply. This doesn't apply to T now. But the case proper. Vote negative presumption. The applicants didn't do anything. They've already read their affirmative. They've already got their education and changed the norms of the basis. They've already made you think about things, which means that you can vote negative presumption. They've already achieved that liberation. Trying to vote reading their affirmative, their usage of personal identities for knowledge production and experience substitute your applicants becoming autonomous, feel negative scoring. Also, student from master performance and evidence of compliant meeting forces that ones and critical thinking necessary dense appearance of experience advertising continuous after the appeals appearance performance substitute evidence anything counts as evidence and that turns case deafness prevents solutions of pressure by using just one viewpoint and solution all forms of pressure according to deafness certainly flowing thought engaged reality as well as like this one becomes a world the main concerns of property consideration ways that this one imposes a definite takes form when this one assessing all their distance from its complete standpoint. Their advocacy says the term masculinity rather is white masculinity, using the term masculinity vaguely paints black parents as having privileges, fundamentally denying comparison, pathologizes black parent card, working black males as thought of pathological, young black children murdered by the state with white, going to show potentiality propensity to combat one, acting regarding the racial James can be miscategorized into different to the contrary to black, known as white supremacy state that only detects masculinity but supposed to be a cherarchy, as concretely non-federal except around skins, we don't like white men and women, rational enforced by the state, their racial black male, philosophical potential study, not a result of the attention, but rather devoted attention to the need to limit the reality of black men death, and your hyper-masculinity ignores that black boys exist in a world of metaphysical state sanctioned violence turns the case and always leads to the same kind of repression that they criticize create, working black men hardest in mobility from poverty education only further political marginalization toward black bodies exist in a mature world of economic political violence and a real tangible social exclusion where there are sanctioned by society, all participants within black bodies are less educated than white, and the black female counterparts lacking necessary education to qualify in many jobs allow for social mobility. Recent research only finds out that employers are less likely to black men often incarcerated, discriminating black men more generally because high rates of crime incarceration black men are likely to reduce employer percentages with no criminal background themselves, market card themselves in the role of the values to determine whether or not the applicant could do anything else self-serving arbitrary district top education, and that no also exploring the after epistemology inherent type of consequences means they should be forced to defend anything but don't want you a new one year extension roll about because they can still gain offenses whether or not the applicant idea under roll about. You ready? Good. 1 second. Yep.
So this H card is miscut. I want you to scratch it off the flop.
How is it miscut?
I have his conclusion which entirely disagrees with that and you didn't qualify it. Can you just scratch H off the flop? I will read evidence ethics in the 1AR. I have this from him.
Okay, I'll strike H. I'll keep the other three definitions.
Yeah, that's fine. So then, talking really briefly about cat. So what is it specifically? Like this blue horn link is very vague. What is it about the 1AC that seeks to escape from the system, and why is it not?
Yeah,
because if you just straight survive,
like a lot of like the arguments that you talked about in like cross-sex shows that you're trying to like escape out of like societal norms, out of things like masculinity. Our Bergam evidence and Bludern evidence criticizes in multiple ways. For example, the Bergam evidence says that refuses and pragmatic state-based approaches for fighting racism fulfill like a rational investment in the status quo. We say that it's not that. You have advocated political commitments that are good, but theorizing can't solve those. Our argument is that things like prefiguration.
And then can you explain to me the distinction between the alternative and the affirmative in terms of intellectual theorizing?
What?
What is the distinction?
Oh yeah, like what does the alternative look like?
But no, how is it distinct from the affirmative in terms of
the alternative endorses like an axiom of equality that rejects to divide and conquer the logic of capitalism in favor of working class solidarity and resistance to oppression. Your affirmative is like an ahistorical narrative that fails to see how things like property rights and like various things that were capitalism, like i.e. the Industrial Revolution, when male workers were necessary to keep the economy going, is something that allowed capitalism to create that form of masculinity that you criticize, which is the reason why the alternative brings things like Marxist materialism to the forefront.
Got it. Then on the Curry analysis, this seems to explain that current conceptions of black maleness pathologize it, and it doesn't seem specific to the term of hypermasculinity, and the idea of the Ath is not that masculinity is even a good thing in the first place. So the 1AC wants to deconstruct all current notions of masculinity, so what is the link to Curry?
Yeah, the Curry evidence says like, all your arguments about things like masculinity are only based off of a conception of what whiteness looks like within masculinity.
Okay, that's fine. And then the Curry 2 evidence, the Curry 2 evidence just talks about the material harms that black men face. What is the link between the first and second Curry evidence?
The Curry 2 evidence says that it's basically just an impact to the first piece of evidence. It says like you allow lots of violence.
But it doesn't seem to be talking about how blackness is pathologized.
What do you mean?
Like
obviously the first argument talks about how you pathologize blackness. The second one makes like an impact of it.
I'm saying I don't see why that is an impact of the first piece of evidence.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the second piece of Curry evidence says that the way the political marginalization works against black bodies is like a material world of violence, which is a form of social exclusion sanctioned by society. Our argument is that because black boys are viewed in a different way, or black men are viewed in a different way, it allows like a sidelining of black males when we're talking about masculinity.
Is the alternative unconditional?
It's a dispositional.
Status?
I can kick it if you put defense on it.
Is it perm defense?
Yes.
Okay. Starting crap. Is it a floating pick?
No.
Thank you. Your argument is what? Actually, never mind.
What?
Never mind. So to clarify, he cut Hag out of the lab.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I removed it from my doc.
I agree with that. Ben was begging me to read that evidence ethics shell against you.
Who?
Ben. Because he cut it, he wanted me to make it. Okay, he wanted me to read it. I have 1:30 left. I'll write that down before I start my order.
Is there a doc?
I might get to analytics, but I'll flash them afterward.
Okay.
Silver bullets. Starting on kick. Sorry. Wow.
That's not it.
Notice.
That far one is sticking out. That's why.
Thank you. it's going to be the AC, and on the AC I'm going to be extending, and while I extend the F, I'll also be responding to the Gordon and Curry stuff, and like maybe on production stuff. I guess like super briefly on the underview, and then T and cap, and a lot of my extensions are going to be on the cap flow, but you can like flow the extensions on cap.
It says case T cap.
Case T cap, because a lot of the extensions are going to be contextualizing it on the cap.
So you're going through the AC extensions, but you're going to contextualize that to cap, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So should I start on the cap flow or the AC
Sorry?
flow? Should I start on the cap flow or the
You
AC
should start on the AC flow. Cap is last.
Okay.
Everyone ready?
Yeah.
The app says that we should not be constrained to specific definitions of hypermasculinity or of masculine identity, rather we should allow rejection of hypermasculinity by embracing melody and being authentic and open to the other. We meet the resolutional interpretation because we say that openness for the candidates is good, so any method of doing this, e.g. through government action, would be a good thing. If you want to get a different government action, you simply could have asked me. There was no specification in the one I see saying I didn't now. You should make it a presumption. One is that it's not about my own liberation, so this is not relevant, it's not about critical education, rather it's just it says second is that if we win often like Captain, that's reason to affirm because we show that we're better on your methodology, and three is just a question of whether the app is a good idea. I'm not saying that this is like a better like in-round performance, where the speech is not performance. I'm simply saying that it is a reason to vote for me. It's a good idea. Now you say that the fine evidence contextualizes why that's a good thing. So even if it isn't rule valid, it's why that's a reason to vote. Now you say only vote evidence. One is that the intro is not often, so there's only to this. Two is that we allow for other forms of engagement with identity. Three is that people have critiqued my performance before, so it's definitely not the case that there's only one interpretation of it. And four is that we can just focus on the actual advocacy. That's all. Now on Curry, one is that we can destruct these conceptions of hypermasculinity. You say that the current conceptions are bad, and we concede that. We say that we are being back these conceptions of masculinity. That's in the Bernard evidence, and that's the second argument that Bernard is specific to black male identity. It's a clear result. There, we show that we are a better conception of it. Three is that the ego shows we creating a new space of resistance to whiteness, which we say institutional domination impossible, also justifies permutation to both from the capital alternative on the cap alternative. I'm going to concede the weighing on the underview that like all the reasons why T comes first. Now see. First, no for topicality, the theories don't compare what the valid is determined for abuse and inequalities, otherwise it's possible to validate there, and two can't validate theories as validating off the floor and making decisions on which is actually better. You can't be consistent with the voter theory doesn't produce thresholds and produces the better theory produce rules that will benefit them. Fourth, things separate from true debaters all the time that are true in the world, so the theory doesn't actually achieve its purpose because it doesn't prove better norms. Five, it's a harm tradition to say your voters either consensus for beneficial for competitive activity, but no competitive activity will establish rules in the middle of competition, remind you the flashes afterwards, remind you the flash that stuff afterwards. On topicality, starting on your your definitions. On words and phrases, counter definition resolved this by Mac dictionaries from determined, which is also because there's no point in debating the resolution because it's already been decided now. Off your investor definition, well, one is that our action changes what it means to engage the right to know, and two is that this is obviously not the case. That is, in all instances, the right to know is also like some sort of more conceptual right now. You say that the right is legal, that's OED. One is that moral rights and human rights also exist, and those are not always legal, e.g. you have a moral right to be respected and be dignified, but that's not legally implemented. Two is that we cannot act if the resolution, we cannot act on it legally if the resolution says that the ought to be valued above. It is not that same, which is you can cross by the Robbins evidence, which is completely conceded. You say it simply doesn't apply to this debate, but obviously it doesn't apply. It says that the to value something above something else means that it is not a prescriptive argument, which means that the verb in this resolution is to deny is not prescriptive. That comes first because it's a question of whether the resolution actually dictates we do. Now, overview to all the standards. One is that we defend some sort of interpretation of the resolution, which is that there's something clearly enough options here. Two is that we meet your show because we show that we meet those definitions. And three is that critical education is a better standard, e.g. exposing new forms of knowledge. Even if I read this out before, you have not negated against it before, you have not judged it before, which means that it's better education. Which is the only reason that debate is useful. You say, and this also takes out all of your arguments on like small tool debaters because A, your debaters also sees that you had plenty of prep against it, and you could have just tried to sell like two critiques. And the second is that we show that we're in the direction of the resolution, which means you should have had some offense that applies against it, and like you could just read like Baudrillard or like other stuff as to why privacy is a good thing, e.g. like the publicity principle under Continental Cap. First of all, the two concessions, the GDA and their evidence clearly shows that on an international stage we are uniquely key to resisting capitalism. It says that hypermasculinity justifies capitalism, which is that if we win that hypermasculinity, if we resolve hypermasculinity, which we do, that means that we resolve capitalism. The specific link weighing here is way more important than their argument. Second is that the Viego evidence shows that the only way to actually engage in the alternative is through creating new spaces of identity. The Viego evidence shows that interior interest is to resist structures of whiteness, which means that the only way for marginalized working class people to engage in the alternative is actually do that in the first place, which justifies permutation to do with also on the alternative jump away, because the alternative is going to solve for the affirmative links, so it's not going to solve in the real world where everyone is engaging on the identity politics on the left. Also, we do not critique the state or say the state is bad. Rather, we say that we have to engage bottom up first, e.g. before we can pass the Civil Rights Act, we first had to convince white America that it was a good thing, which also means that we link on your side your Burgum evidence, but also on your Blue Horn evidence. We do not link to this. We don't want to restate the resolution or hack the resolution. We're just our own interpretation of it, which is a question of whether you win topicality in the first, which is also, we're not trying to disrupt society, we're just trying to create a survival strategy for people who are being oppressed right now in society. If people shouldn't be oppressed in this manner, then you just affirm and permute.
4 minutes.
I'll start while you start, Rob. I'll send while you start.
Oh, actually, do you mind sending before us?
Yeah, sure.
Did you say you were water?
I just got some.
Well, actually, are any of them impact charts?
There's just reasons theory doesn't make sense.
Or you have something?
Yeah? You still want them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, can you include me on that?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Are any of them in it? It's an important question to ask. I'm just sending it in the email.
Yeah, that's fine.
Send.
I'll start prefacing it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You got it?
Yeah, I'm just gonna copy paste it to your NC doc and then. Or wait, I'll just put it here. Okay, start back. Were there any offensive reasons to vote out on theory?
Yeah, I guess that if you extended that I should defend the topic. Actually, no. I mean, it's dropped the debater. Like the resolved argument could have been an op error, but it's not. Like I'm not gonna go for it.
So there are no offensive reasons to vote out. Like if I just like don't touch the T.
If you don't go for T, the 2AR will not say.
So the 2AR can't stand and be like, what would you drop
the 2AR will
impact
the
from
2AR the 2AR will not say it's a reason to drop you. There's stuff that can apply to other layers, but there's no like independent mover impact, right?
Why does Viego mean the working class need the app?
Well, like the arguments made in the alternative are about like the racialized aspect of the working class, and Viego is about resisting white interpretations of what it means to exist as a certain
Okay,
word.
that's fine.
So okay.
Viego is the last card, right? Yeah.
It's the Viego card.
It'll be case, then actually it'll be cap then case.
We're on case.
No, actually it'll be case then cap, yeah. It'll be the roll of the ballot in the presumption area and Gordon.
So,
Is there anything pre-written?
Yeah, but I don't have
I
it
just have-
pre-written in the context of this app, which means a lot of it will just look like it doesn't apply. if
Oh,
that's-
okay. If there's anything like you're gonna read word for word, I just have a little bit of trouble flowing in, so that'd be great.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
there's nothing word for word.
Yeah, that's
in the
fine.
context of
That's
various
fine, yeah.
apps. Yeah,
That's totally fine.
So
it's just like a reference for a type of argument.
it's cap AC?
AC cap.
AC cap, okay.
It'll be starting at like the roll about presumption Gordon area. I don't know if we flooded that on case.
Yeah.
Cool. Everybody good? Cool. Conceded rule about is to determine whether or not the app's a good idea. Anything else is self-serving, arbitrary, straight topic education, the epistemology of their is inherently tied to the concepts means we have to evaluate it now. Vote negative on presumption, they say it's not about their liberation, but no, they talk about how it's a survival strategy, but multiple times in the one is also at the top of the one. See if you don't believe me, it's in the very first card, which means insofar as it's a question of a survival strategy. It's obviously clear that this affirmative has already been read. It has not changed the way that the space functions or the way that society views masculinity, which is the reason why you should probably vote negative on presumption. Their app doesn't change societal conceptions. Now, the Gordon evidence, you saying that this app is good for you doesn't automatically make it a good thing. The app's a survival strategy. Or Gordon evidence say usage of Daniel's personal identity in order to determine how the reviewers, which is contextualized as a reason to turn case by our second piece of Gordon evidence. Our second piece of Gordon evidence is to turn case kills so on for any kind of oppression because it uses one kind of viewpoint, which is totalizing and oppressive, which also is an essentialism to the affirmative because it takes one form of discipline, assessing all their disciplines to its complete standpoint, which is a way that we can't actually we can't develop proper conception of the rule, and we need to use multiple different methods. Now, the K turns it outweighs the case capitalism causing ecological destruction, imperial interventions, workers' thoughts and warming, all of which are only disproportionate fact individual groups of people that external impacts applicants all due to the rejection of political persecution, extinction, always reverse stability. We need to be alive to ever find value in life, and extinction forecloses any possibility of things getting better. If we're all dead, we can't resolve anything about it. Death by warming is infinite amounts of people suffer from starvation, dehydration, and disease is spreading by overcrowding too when it turns or impacts the cyclical nature of the capitalist economy necessity, things like welfare cuts, industrial revolution, which cause the pathologization, urbanization of masculine people. This only in the modern state form of social control over individual groups of people, and capitalist organizations are a better explanation for modern violence. Now, argue that now the Bergam evidence is two wings. I'm going for first is Bergam refusals of the pragmatic state versus person fighting racism and various societal constructs like masculinity are successful because they fulfill a need and rationalize investment. The status quo, they've abdicated very many important political commitments with the faith that theorizing alone will take care of the problem. Was watching the status quo prefiguration is good, and this is the thesis level. Can has zero answers in the 1 yard. Their refusal to take a stance on the world and the institutions around us is what institutions we want is not simply a missed opportunity just by the permutation, but the logical result of their politics. Their answers on T prove that they are not they're not compatible with the alternative because all their arguments on T in the 1AC were arguments of why their form of engagement with society is something that's inherently bad. Our alternative is this kind of engagement with society, which means all of their answers from the 1AC and all their answers to T prove the permutation is impossible in their world. Their assumption about the fair engagement creates self-fulfilling prophecies by constraining the horizon of politics, which displaces transformative desires in favor of ineffective feel-good politics that undermine any contingent interim measures for improving the world that locks in capitalism, which is why you ought to endorse the alternative. Their Gina and Nura evidence, they say hypermasculinity just like capitalism. There's no representation or warrant for extended out evidence for why this is true. They just asserted, which means if I give you a reason why capitalism causes masculine norms, that's a reason why you should vote negative. Capitalism causes masculinity by the Industrial Revolution. Our argument is that things like the male workers working in factories in order to produce more goods for the Industrial Revolution accelerate the form of production that was seen in the working class. Is the form of masculinity created by capitalism, a place to kind of burden on the mill to be strong and provide for the family, produce the economy, and continue to propel the world forward, which is the reason why all of our arguments are having the root cause of all the arguments are reasons why you should vote negative. There's no explanation of how hypermasculine is the cause of capitalism. It means that it's going to be super new in the Twitter, and you shouldn't evaluate their Viego evidence. It's not a question of our subjectivities, it's about our method of political engagement, which means even if they say the working class can do with the affirmative, that's simply possible. Also, all of their arguments about why political engagement and engagement with society is impossible on T can be crossed by on Viego, why working class can't use our method of engagement politics of I'll get to the permutation later. I'm extending a second link now. That's our Bluedorn evidence. Our Bluedorn evidence says that hacking creates some kind of outside of capitalism. Capitalism tries to form politics that causes a pseudo-radical space, which is merely a simulation of agency. Their belief that we create space outside of capitalism fails since it focuses on individual identity, space, collective movements. While they give us a small sense of agency to be able to really virtually face their politics, prioritize the individual ones. But at the expense of collective organization, you should prioritize legal engagement. Their belief that we can challenge individual things. In debate doesn't stop the subduing of masses or challenge structural things. They say they don't have the resolution, but they're a survival strategy. No, their survival strategy is a method of forming and outside escaping societal norms. I can pull lines from cross-examination, Daniel made arguments about we escape norms of masculinity that are created by society. The entirety of the narrative at the top of the case also contextualizes how this function, how the affirmative tries to escape out of these norms, which means they're trying to create some kind of outside to the way the debate and politics functions, which means that they still link because they're trying to escape societal norms. Now, the alternative. The alternative solves the case and endorses an axiom of equality, rejects divide and conquers logic of capitalism in favor of working class solidarity, resistance oppression, therefore knows an ahistorical narrative that fails to see how capitalism created masculinity. It sees how things like property rights are associated with capitalism. The alternative uses things like materialism to bring the working class to the forefront and political movements by discarding notions of things like human capital, which are what were used to produce masculinity instead of breaking down class divisions based on economic division that kill mobility. It means no more private prisons, ever accessing single-payer healthcare and redistribution of wealth to various communities. It doesn't mean that masculine people no longer propel the economy. The alternative solves the case 8 point is alternative property point. The app doesn't do anything to solve either. That's our Buhner evidence, which is that the hacking of the outside is always going to be caused by capitalism, which means all their movements are going to fail. C point is that even if we don't solve the first, we solve a ton of material balance, i.e. extinction of the other impacts that were in the K-turn case over, which means that insofar those are all conceded, those all net benefits to their alternative. Insofar as there are no net benefits to permutation, I'm about to answer the permutation, you can't vote for them. They are permutation, they don't get a permutation. One point is when we disprove any part of the one you see non-topical furnace, I would have responsibility to event every party furnace, which means if you have any kind of doubt about the Gordon evidence or the presumption, you should vote negative. 2 points are permanent line and neoclassical economic assumption of cost-benefit analysis and opportunity cost, which is that permutations are capitalist in and of themselves. 3 points is even if the alternative is technically compatible with the alternative, their mode of politics results in endless deferred political solvency and projects which destroys alternative solvency. First, the critique is ideologically exclusive. 4 point is a footnoting this that capitalism another additive identity. It's what structures identity politics. Their ignorance of this is what allows the continuation of masculine oppression. Means any inclusion of the affirmative due to solvency there. They say Wayne Bergam because it's bottom up. No, bottom up doesn't Wayne Bergam. Our argument is that direct prefiguration and engagement is something that's uniquely good. Here's how the ground breaks down. Capitalism controls the internal to all the root cause argument. The alternative solves all the case and impacts that turn that way. The case means you should vote negative because there were no net benefit permutation. I have multiple dissents.
I got
it. It's
130. Jinx.
Copy soda.
Sorry?
Soda
I think I said Jinx. So you owe me a soda. It's fine.
On the perms, you read off the speech doc.
The perms, yeah.
Cool. Can I
There was a
see?
speech doc?
The perms, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even, oh my god. I didn't even know this, it's fine. I didn't even know there was a speech doc.
Here, I'll send the perms stuff.
It's fine. I'm not going for the
You can send it to me. I'll take it.
For legs.
Let's go.
For the party. Case K. On K, start with the extensions of Gita and Eric Viego, then briefly on whether the alternative solves case. I'll be doing, like,
When you said case K or K case?
case K. Also, I'm not supposed to be speaking since I'm doing today. Is it like the new soda for everywhere?
So it's case K, starting on the reader in there and reading on cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll sound post. Everyone ready?
Yeah, I'm going to create some space and I'm sure we can make. Okay.
Extend the affirmative, re-engage in male and or rejecting current notions of what hypermasculinity means to be the opposite good idea. Re-define our evidence on case the Bernard evidence shows that it's a good idea. That's as long as you have another critique. First of all, you do not get new to our responses to conceded cards that come out of the 1AC. You did not justify this in the 2 response without granting these arguments. They were all new in the Gita and narrative Viego evidence were conceded. Look at your flow, big blank space. They weren't responding to RCs. You can extend the Gita and narrative evidence that says that hypermasculinity is the root cause of capitalism and colonialism. It justifies the drives of stigmatized violence, and also the results based on a racialized and class perspective, and also leads to misogyny. Your first argument said there's no warrant extended for it, but that's because the evidence was conceded. There's no reason that I do have to extend a warrant for it. It's comparatively more defensive history to just reject the evidence if I extended it in the 1AR out of the 1AC cleanly. Now, your second argument is a new reason as to why capitalism is the root cause of hypermasculinity. So this argument is doing the 2 issue. You should not have value to be, so G and evidence was considered and proves that we are the root cause, which means any defense on this argument proves that you should prefer all and error analysis, and C is that it still proves that it's a part of the alternatives movement, e.g. we show that the G and evidence clearly indicates that hypermasculinity simply feeds into capitalism, which is that if we resist hypermasculinity, that's some sort of link turn to the affirmative, link to the theory because we are a better method of engaging in capitalism. Now, the Viego evidence, we do not refuse society, is a question of how the alternative habits and the evolution of ecology is a carbon show whether minoritized groups can engage in resistance strategies in the first place, e.g. today in U.S. culture, black and Latino people are told that they exist in a certain fashion, which means that we need to resist those interpretations. The Bernard evidence indicates that we do that. You concede that this means that it is a prior question that we have solvency on the affirmative flow, that we are the only way to actually engage in it. Really quickly, going back to the app, just really quickly on Gordon. Just realized that, yeah. You say that it's a survival strategy, but the survival strategy is a question of fiat. We fiat the affirmative and say, is this a good survival strategy in the world in which it happens? And like the introduction essence, we're not often, it's just like something that we had at the beginning of the history contextualized it, and really briefly on Curry, you extended it, yeah. Did you extend Curry? I don't know. Regardless, you can extend the first argument that we deconstruct conceptions of masculinity, and like on Gordon, you also conceded like all the other arguments, this was presumption. Yeah, so on presumption, you conceded that if I win offense on cap, that's a reason to affirm. I was very confused there, sorry. So the link turns on cap are at least a reason to affirm, but the app is also a post-fiat good idea. So your only argument on the Viego, this is going back to the critique, on Viego, but it's your only argument that we don't engage in society on topicality, but our argument on topicality simply was that the resolution does not mandate that we defend state. We did not make a single state bad argument in this round. Just look through the entire flow, see there is no link, and Viego proves that it's a prerequisite to the alternative, which even if it doesn't justify the permutation, it justifies whether the affirmative is a good idea, even under the alternative. Now, briefly on the alternative solves case debate, your ace one is just like the alt. You didn't understand what this means or why it actually solves the case, and if we back your next point, it doesn't mean the big one is a blue horn, that we look for an outside, but no, we do not look for an outside. This analysis was done on the Viego evidence that on topicality, we do not reject the state, which is that it's not a question of whether or not we're like in anti-statist politics, but rather the survival strategy within the state. And the C point is that we solve material violence, like extinction, but this is not what the case is about, so it doesn't solve the case. And really briefly, extend like the bottom-up argument on Bergam, like you had to convince white people that racism is bad before we pass the CRA, which means that our form of politics is fine, and even though it's not anti-state, it's okay to work outside the state sometimes.
Good round, great.
Almost conceded this up in the app.
Do you know how much time you have for the decisions? Sorry. I'm just curious.
16 minutes.
16 minutes.